Hello and welcome to our daily news roundup here on Atlantic TV. I am Nkechi Tejere. Here are our top stories. Tinubu sets record with 1,062 national honors. Kidnapped pupils cast dark shadow over Children's Day. Atiku fires at APC. Food manufacturers reject multiple taxes. Trump directives sparked anti-ISIS strikes in Nigeria, says Hexit. FG unveils major sports stadium overhaul nationwide. Now to the news in full. President Bola Tinubu has conferred national honors on at least 1,062 individuals, including Nigerians and foreign nationals, living and posthumous, within nearly 3 years in office, surpassing previous administrations. Findings show that most of the awards were approved on the 9th of October 2025, when the National Council of State ratified the report of the National Honors Committee, recommending hundreds of recipients after screening over 5,000 nominations. The committee presented 824 honorees for the 2024-2025 cycle and 135 special award recipients, bringing the approved list to 959, with additional presidential awards given across various sectors, including the military and public service. Tinubu's honors span the national heroes, security personnel, democracy activists, and international figures, including posthumous awards to fallen soldiers, June 12 democracy heroes, and recognitions for global leaders such as Indian Minister Narendra Modi and philanthropist Bill Gates. The president also awarded national honors and benefits to Super Eagles players, decorated slain soldiers and officers, and conferred posthumous titles on senior military figures and counter-insurgency victims. The Tinubu administration's tally surpasses that of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who conferred 447 honors in his major 2022 investiture, and significantly exceeds former President Goodluck Jonathan's 304 recipient award ceremony in 2014. Nigeria's National Honors System, established in 1964, is administered through the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and remains the President's exclusive prerogative. With over 1,062 awards in under 3 years, President Tinubu's administration has set a new benchmark in the history of Nigeria's National Honors System, which has seen about 6,400 recipients since inception. The federal government has commended the Maritime Academy of Nigeria, Oron Akwa Ibom State, following its attainment of global ISO certification, pledging continued support for initiatives that strengthen institutional standards and global competitiveness. The Academy on Tuesday received official recognition with the presentation of Integrated Management System certifications ISO 9001-2015 and ISO 21001-2025 by the Standards Organization of Nigeria. The Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, described the achievement as a clear demonstration of the institution's commitment to excellence, quality assurance, and environmental sustainability. Speaking at the certification ceremony, the Director General of the Standards Organization of Nigeria, Dr. Ifeanyi Okeke, said the accreditation reflects strong commitment to quality management, operational efficiency, customer satisfaction, and continuous improvement. He explained that the ISO 9001-2015 framework provides globally accepted standards for improving organization processes, strengthening risk-based thinking, and enhancing service delivery and institutional governance. The federal government reaffirmed its commitment to strengthening maritime education and institutional development as part of broader efforts to improve Nigeria's blue economy sector. Oyetola, represented by a deputy director in the ministry, Mr. John Okuche, said the certification reflects adherence to international best practices and reinforces a culture of accountability, continuous improvement, and operational efficiency in the maritime sector. Children's Day celebrations across Nigeria were overshadowed by growing concerns over the abduction of pupils and teachers in Oyo State and Borno State, as President Bola Tinubu and Governor Sheyi Makinde renewed calls for their safe return. At least 82 pupils were abducted between May 13th and 15th during separate attacks on schools in both states. In Borno, 42 pupils were kidnapped following attacks on schools in Askira, Uba, and Chibok local government areas, while another 40 pupils were abducted in coordinated attacks on three schools in Orile local government area of Oyo State. The attacks in Oyo also claimed the lives of a mathematics teacher, a motorcyclist, and a security operative during rescue efforts. In his Children's Day message, President Tinubu lamented that while many children were celebrating with their families, others remained in captivity under traumatic conditions. The president assured affected families that the abducted children and teachers had not been forgotten, pledging that the federal government would continue intelligence led rescue operations until all victims are safely returned. Tinubu also directed the strengthening of the Safe Schools framework across vulnerable communities and promised rehabilitation, counseling, and reintegration support for rescued children. Meanwhile, Governor Sheyi Makinde assured residents that the Oyo State government was working round the clock to reunite the abducted pupils with their families. Special prayers were also offered for the victims during Eid el-Kabir prayers in Ibadan, with religious leaders calling for peace and improved security nationwide. In Abuja, Senate leader Okpeyemi Bamidele condemned the kidnappings, describing the continued detention of children as a crime against humanity and a violation of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. He pledged that the National Assembly would continue pushing for tougher laws and stronger measures against kidnappers and violent criminals across the country. While security agencies say coordinated rescue efforts are ongoing, as families of the abducted pupils continue to await their safe return. Now on politics. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has emerged as the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress ADC for the 2027 elections, launching a strong attack on the ruling All Progressives Congress APC. Speaking after the party's presidential primary in Abuja, Atiku accused the APC-led government of worsening hardship, insecurity, and political repression while pushing Nigeria towards a one-party state. The former vice president also described the ADC as a platform to rescue Nigeria's democracy and rebuild the country. Atiku secured over 1.8 million votes to defeat former Rivers State Governor Rotimi Amechi and businessman Mohammed Hayatuddin in the party's presidential primary. Addressing party members after his victory, the ADC flag bearer alleged that the APC government was engineering crisis within opposition parties through the involvement of security agencies, INEC, and elements within the judiciary. He also condemned the continued detention of former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, describing it as part of a wider crackdown on opposition figures. Atiku further alleged that anti-corruption agencies were being used to pressure opposition politicians into joining the ruling party. The former vice president, however, appealed to aggrieved party members and defeated aspirants to unite behind the ADC ahead of the 2027 general elections. On insecurity, Atiku accused the Tinubu administration of failing to respond decisively to killings and attacks across the country. He promised that an ADC government would strengthen the armed forces, police, and intelligence agencies through improved welfare, recruitment, training, and modern equipment. Former Deputy President of the Senate, Ovie Omoagege, has resigned from the All Progressives Congress APC, citing recent developments within the party in Delta State. Omoagege announced his resignation in a statement issued on Thursday through his media advisor, Sunday Are, after consultations with political associates and supporters. The former senator said his political future and the interests of his constituents would be better pursued outside the ruling party. In his resignation letter addressed to the APC chairman of Orogun Ward 2 in Ugeli North local government area, Omar Agege declared that he would not remain a sitting duck in a party where he could no longer advance the interests of Delta Central, Delta States, and Nigeria. The former Deputy Senate President appreciated the APC for the opportunity to serve in different capacities during his time in the party. He also requested that his name be removed from all APC membership records and communication platforms. Omoagege assured supporters of his continued commitment to political engagement and representation, promising to remain active in the development of Delta Central and the country. The former lawmaker represented Delta Central Senatorial District and served as deputy president of the Ninth Senate. His resignation marks another major political development within the APC in Delta State ahead of the evolving political season. The Association of Food, Beverage and Tobacco Employers, AFBTE, has warned the federal government against excessive taxation, arbitrary levies, and weak regulatory engagement, saying the current policy environment could threaten the survival of businesses in Nigeria's food and beverage sector. The warning was issued by the president of AFBTE, Chinedum Okereke, during the association's 47th annual general meeting held in Lagos State. He said the food and beverage industry remains a key pillar of the Nigerian economy due to its contributions to employment, public health, and national growth, stressing that government policies must support rather than undermine the sector. Okereke also raised concerns over multiple taxes, rising operational costs, and what he described as poor regulatory consultation, arguing that many companies are struggling to remain viable under current economic pressures. He further opposed the proposed ban on sachets and small PET bottled alcohol packaging, warning that such a policy could lead to job losses, reduced investment, and declining government revenue. The AFBTE president insisted that regulatory decisions affecting the industry must be backed by empirical evidence, data, and proper stakeholder engagement. He urged the federal government to introduce incentives and relief measures for manufacturers facing foreign exchange constraints, infrastructure deficits, and rising production costs. Okereke also called for the expansion of free trade zones through upgraded industrial clusters to support long established manufacturers who are now disadvantaged compared to firms operating within designated zones. He added that improved collaboration between government and the private sector remains essential for sustaining investor confidence and easing the business environment in Nigeria. Earlier, the association's treasurer, Osaro Omogiade, reported that AFBTE recorded a total income of 165.45 million naira for the 2025 financial year, reflecting the 10.13% increase from the previous year. Despite the revenue growth, the association noted rising expenditure pressures, underscoring broader concerns about cost escalation in Nigeria's manufacturing sector. And now on business news, the federal government spent only 3.10 trillion naira on capital projects in the first 9 months of 2025, despite accessing 11.89 trillion naira in debt financing, raising concerns over a widening gap between borrowing and infrastructure delivery. Data from the Budget Office of the Federation's third quarter 2025 budget implementation report shows that total debt inflows comprised 7.8 trillion naira in domestic borrowing and 4.81 trillion naira in multilateral and bilateral project-tied loans. However, capital expenditure stood at just 26.07% of total financing receipts within the same period. A breakdown of spending revealed that ministries, departments, and agencies accounted for 1.21 trillion naira, Government-owned enterprises spent 615.68 billion naira, while donor-funded and grant projects contributed 1.8 trillion naira. Notably, no expenditure was recorded under the multilateral and bilateral project-tied loan segment, despite a budget provision of 2.52 trillion naira for such projects, with the Budget Office attributing delays to cash management and administrative bottlenecks. Economists and stakeholders have raised concerns about the trend, warning that rising government borrowings is crowding out the private sector and limiting access to credit for productive industries. The Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Dr. Muda Yusuf, and the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Shegun Kadir Ajayi, both cautioned that banks' preference for government securities over private sector lending is weakening industrial growth. While the Budget Office defended deficit financing as a macroeconomic tool, the Finance Ministry warned that Nigeria must reduce reliance on borrowing and strengthen its revenue base to ensure sustainable development and improved infrastructure delivery. You're watching our daily news roundup here on Atlantic TV. We'll go on a short break. When we return, more news stories on the foreign scene and on sports. To stay tuned.
All right, my name is Desoka, the comedy catalyst, one of Nigerian comedy.
All right, guys, back again. Yes, boss. My name is Osh Baby.
CME Alade.
Yeah, what up, people? It's your boy Victor AD.
Girl Ninyola.
My name is my wife, and just celebrity type man.
My papa say, who won't carry cow, waka go, waka follow the cow. I know the line for you.
I see you know you're watching the Atlantic TV.
Keep watching Atlantic TV.
Atlantic TV.
Keep watching Atlantic TV.
Keep watching Atlantic TV.
Keep watching Atlantic TV.
Atlantic TV.
Informative, educative, interesting, entertaining.
Worldwide, international.
Don't go anywhere, I'll catch you.
Don't touch that die. Atlantic TV. Boom.
Atlantic TV. We wanna party.
Atlantic TV. Culturally inclined and uniquely different.
Welcome back. Now to the foreign scene. The United States Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, said President Donald Trump directed the Pentagon to prioritize the protection of Christians in Nigeria targeted by ISIS-linked groups. Hegseth disclosed this at the White House press briefing, noting that the directive was issued about a year ago after Trump received reports of attacks against Christians in Nigeria. He said the order led to coordinated military operations involving U.S. and Nigerian forces in the Lake Chad Basin. According to Hegseth, intelligence gathered during the operation contributed to the killing of Abu Bilal al-Minuki, identified as ISIS' second-in-command, during a joint strike in northeast Nigeria. He added that follow-up operations eliminated several ISIS fighters linked to attacks on Christians and threats against the United States. Hegseth also claimed that hundreds of ISIS members have been killed through intelligence-driven missions under the same directive. The U.S. Defense Chief described the operation as part of broader counter-terrorism efforts under the Trump administration aimed at protecting vulnerable communities and strengthening global security cooperation. He said the administration would continue to deploy military assets when necessary to counter extremist threats. There are indications that Iran could restore shipping through the Strait of Hormuz to pre-war levels within a month if a framework deal is reached with the United States. According to Iranian state television, the proposed agreement would see the United States withdraw its forces from Iran's vicinity while also ending what Tehran describes as a naval blockade on Iranian shipping. The report said the draft memorandum of understanding being negotiated between both countries includes provisions aimed at ending the ongoing tensions and over 3 months of conflict-related disruptions. However, the United States has strongly denied the report, describing it as false. A White House statement posted on social media insisted that the Strait of Hormuz would remain open to all nations and would not be controlled by any single country under any agreement with Iran. US President Donald Trump also stated that there were no discussions on easing sanctions against Tehran, adding that Iranian state media reports should not be trusted. Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guard dismissed the likelihood of renewed war with the United States, citing what it described as enemy weakness, while warning that any aggression would be met with strong resistance. Iran's intelligence military further accused the United States and Israel of continuing efforts to destabilize the Islamic Republic through sabotage and internal division. As diplomatic and military tensions continue, both Tehran and Washington remain divided over key issues including control of the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's nuclear program. And now on sports news. The federal government has approved a sweeping package of sports infrastructure upgrades across Nigeria, with the Moshood Abiola National Stadium in Abuja set for a major overhaul to restore it to international standards. The approvals were announced by the National Sports Commission after its tenders board meeting, where contracts covering multiple stadium and sports facility projects nationwide were ratified under a broader national sports development plan. At the center of the intervention is the full rehabilitation of the Abuja National Stadium pitch, alongside extensive upgrades to its tartan tracks, dressing room, media center, VIP and corporate suites, security systems, and cooling and heating facilities. The federal government also approved additional upgrades within the Abuja complex, including a high performance center, rehabilitation of the swimming pool at Package B, construction of 2 new training pitches, and conversion of the 200-bed athletes hostel into a hotel facility. Other components of the project include an anti-doping laboratory, modern sports medical facilities, internationally compliant floodlights, electronic advertising boards, pitch protection systems, and video assistant referee technology. Chairman of the National Sports Commission, Malam Shehu Diko, described the initiative as a landmark step towards restoring Nigeria's sporting glory and driving youth empowerment and economic growth through sports. He said President Bola Tinubu's administration is positioning sports as a key tool for national development, while also announcing approval for a national sports infrastructure development bond to ensure sustainable funding for facilities nationwide. The federal government also approved support for up-and-coming national sports festivals and ongoing redevelopment projects in Lagos, Ibadan, Kaduna, and Kano, alongside new sports centers in tertiary institutions and mini stadiums across 20 communities nationwide. Super Eagles coach Eric Chell has expressed dissatisfaction with debutant Femi Aziz's overall performance despite the Wingers' brace in Nigeria's 2-0 victory over Zimbabwe in the opening match of the Unity Cup in London. Aziz, who was handed his debut start for the Super Eagles, scored twice to secure victory for Nigeria at the Valley. The Millwall winger opened scoring in the 6th minute with a powerful low strike before adding a second-half goal from a Teram Murphy assist to emerge as the standout performer of the match. Despite the impressive result, Chell criticized the 24-year-old for failing to fully carry out tactical instructions during the game. The Franco-Malian tactician stated that although Aziz scored 2 goals, he lost possession too often and did not press high as instructed. Chell admitted the player showed moments of brilliance by recovering possession at times, but insisted he was not entirely satisfied with the winger's overall technical display. The Super Eagles coach, however, congratulated Aziz on the successful debut performance for the national team. Nigeria has now advanced to the final of the Unity Cup and will face the winner of the second semi-final between India and Jamaica. The coach also handed debuts to 7 other players, including Arthur Okonkwo, Chibueze Okuta, Obinna Igboke, Rafiu Durosimi, Tosin Oyedokun, Owen Oseni, and Aderemi Adeoye. Now on the weather forecast for today. And with that weather forecast, we've come to the end of our daily news roundup for today here on Atlantic TV. Do also follow us on all our social media platforms for more news stories and headline updates. Thank you so much for watching. I am Nkechi Techere. Have a pleasant day.